Hey everybody, and welcome back to how to deploy a Laravel application to the internet. This is a start to finish series, and this is going to be part number 1. So the previous video was our introduction, just kind of explaining how the format of the series and everything like that. Okay, so now this video is part 1. We're going to talk about basically a few hosting options. We're just going to dabble in the hosting options, not going to go into a ton of detail, I don't think. And after that, we're going to choose a host and set up a virtual private server. We're going to install it with Linux and everything like that, and then SSH into our server, okay? That's what we're going to focus on in this video. The next video is actually going to talk about installing the various technologies so we can build our stack of technologies on the server. The third video is all about Git and getting our files onto the server, and then the fourth one is going to be configuring Laravel after we get the files on there. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about hosting. Where can you store your new Laravel application that you've got in mind? Well, first of all, there's basically 4 options for hosting. First, you have shared hosting, and then you have a virtual private server. Then you have a platform as a service, a PAAS product, and then you have dedicated servers, okay? So we can talk about the first 2 extremes basically right from the get-go. First thing is obviously dedicated servers are gonna be full-on dedicated servers. You have a server box, you own the entire box. Right from the get-go, okay? So that's what a dedicated server is. These can cost thousands of dollars a month, and most people don't actually need an entire server. Servers are so powerful anymore that even large-scale applications, you'd be surprised, run off of virtual private servers, which are just slices of an application. Unless you're running a very, very large service, you may not need a dedicated server, okay? Now, what we're gonna be talking about in this video after we get, actually not this video, but the next 3 videos, we're gonna talk about basically how to configure any Linux-based server, specifically Ubuntu. And so you can actually follow this guide if you do have a dedicated server, but most people aren't going to need that level of power. That's usually too much. It's just overkill for a lot of applications, but large websites would need it. I'm assuming that basically you're just dabbling with Laravel right now, so you probably aren't needing a dedicated server, but just want to know that it's out there. All right, now the opposite end of the dedicated server spectrum would be a shared host. Now a shared host, you guys are probably familiar with. These are companies like HostGator. Another popular one is Bluehost. And you can see that these are really cheap platforms, a couple bucks a month, $5 a month. And you know, they got all these stats, unlimited domains, unlimited FTP, unlimited email, unlimited is what they say. All right. And these aren't really unlimited. These are kind of just like a free for all is the best way I like to describe it. Basically shared hosts, you've got a big server and not a big server. Usually they're pretty weak servers actually. They have a server and then they basically sell thousands and thousands of people onto that server. And that server can maybe only handle maybe couple hundred at a time, but they'll put thousands upon thousands on, knowing that most of them probably aren't going to be on there at the same time. So it should work out, basically. Like most of the time, it should work out. These servers are notorious for crashing and coming back up, and I obviously have a shared host, and I actually track and monitor uptime and stuff with a script I have on my computer. And so these things go down sometimes as much as once a day. You just don't know it because you're not on your website constantly. But if you knew how often they go down, if you had an uptime script, you would be surprised at how often these things go up and down. They crash constantly. And that's kind of the idea of shared hosting. They just put a ton of people onto a server, and it's like a roller coaster. Sometimes the performance is really good if there's no one else using the server at the same time, then because you're sharing a server, that's basically what it is. So if there's no one else on there, you'll get really good performance. If there's a bunch of other people, you'll get terrible performance. It crashes a lot, things like that. So anyway, that's basically what a server shared host is. Now, can you put a Laravel application on a shared host? Yes, you can. It does work from what I've heard. I've never done it myself, but there are people that have been able to make it work. The problem is it's very difficult. I don't think you get full access to the Laravel because you can't take full power of the Laravel because the Laravel doesn't have root access to the server or anything like that. So you're always never going to get quite the same experience. In addition, Laravel is going to eat more resources than most likely, depending on your application. It may eat more resources than what these servers are really used to. These servers really aren't designed for Laravel, so you're always going to be kind of fighting an uphill battle with shared hosts. So we're not going to worry about shared hosts. Shared hosts are too difficult to configure because they have so much things locked down. You don't really have control over the server, so you're constantly trying to make it work based on like these settings inside of your control panel. Okay, but anyway, that's shared hosts. Now the other two platforms that we have is virtual private servers and PAAS, which is platform as a service. So when we look at when we look at virtual private servers, the names that come to mind are definitely like DigitalOcean's very popular. Another one that's very popular is Linode. And these are just virtual private servers. This is basically where you own dedicated resources. If we look here at the pricing page, you can see that, for example, for $5 a month here, you get half a gig of memory, you get 1 core processor, you get 20 gig SSD, and a terabyte of transfer or traffic, basically. Okay, so you get, these are your dedicated resources. You're not sharing them with anybody, so you're guaranteed to have these resources. All right, and so this in a lot of ways is actually 10 times more powerful than what is available from other companies, from shared hosts and stuff like this. And so it's actually very affordable with companies like DigitalOcean and Vultr and Linode, okay? So I highly recommend we do virtual private servers. The downside with virtual private servers is they give you a server box, and that's it, okay? You're gonna get a box that you can SSH into, a server, and you're gonna have to do everything else. You have to set up Git, you have to set up Nginx or Apache, and you have to set up PHP. All of that you have to set up. And that's why sometimes people get scared away from these. But it's actually between a performance, if you weigh the ratio basically of performance to price, this is the best deal out there is virtual private servers because you get really good performance for really affordable. Whereas shared hosts, you get terrible performance for really cheap. And then dedicated servers, you get really good performance for really expensive. And then the opposite end of, or not the opposite end, but kind of a similar trend is going in through a platform as a service, something like FortRabbit. FortRabbit is a platform as a service. Another platform as a service that you're very familiar with, I'm sure, is Heroku. And these are platforms that are like, you basically giving you a VPS, but they're giving additional value on top of there. So they're giving you services like Git. And for example, you come in here, and you can see what kind of services they're giving you. You get out of the box, you get Git, push to deploy. So you kind of get, it's kind of similar to like a shared host in the fact that like a lot of that stuff's built for you, so you don't have to worry about it. But at the same time, you still get the virtual private server. So it's kind of the best of both worlds. The downside with these, oh, by the way, real quick, you can also get Composer. You can get like HTTPS ready to go out of the box, SSH out of the box. So a lot of these services are just ready to go. And for those people that are scared about setting up their own server, platform as a service allows you to have really good speed and reliability and stuff like that, like you would with a VPS. But at the same time have the convenience that you might get with something like a shared host where you don't have to manage all the details of the server. Now I'm going to show you how to use a VPS to install all of this stuff, all right? So we're going to install Git, we can install HTTPS and SSH and all of that we can install all that through our virtual private server, but this is definitely an easy way to do it. If you just want to boot it up, and it's kind of like when you push your project to GitHub and it's just done, that's kind of how this is. You push it to this service and then it handles all the rest and it's on the internet. You don't have to configure anything or anything like that. Okay, so that's what a platform as a service. Just real quick before we move on, you basically have FortRabbit, there's Heroku's popular. Another one that's popular is called Pagoda Box. Pagoda Box is another really popular one. And then another really popular one is called Engine Yard. All right. Now, I don't have any credits to give you guys on any of these platforms as a service because we're going to be focusing today on using a virtual private server. And what I'm actually going to be using instead of DigitalOcean is Vultr. Okay. Now, Vultr is my preferred VPS service, even over DigitalOcean. DigitalOcean's really good too. I've got a $10 credit for you guys for DigitalOcean, and I've got a $20 credit for Vultr. So I got you guys some credits so you guys can get up and moving on these servers and save a little bit of money. And that way you can play it around with it for free and follow along. Okay, now Vultr is blazing fast. I'm super happy with the performance of Vultr, how fast it is. It feels like a local server. Like when I'm on Vultr, even though my website's in the cloud, it feels like it's local. It's so fast. I've been really happy with it. Also, their pricing is very affordable. For their pricing, their $5 a month server comes with 3/4 of a gig of memory, which is quite a bit, and then a terabyte of bandwidth. and 15 gig SSD. Very similar to DigitalOcean. It's so fast though. That's why I've really been happy with Vultr. So if you guys want to get started with Vultr, I've got a $20 credit below. Just go down to the description, click the link for Vultr. You click the link, and then that automatically gives you the credit. There's no coupon code or anything. So you have to go down, click the link. It's going to ask you to create an account. It's just an email address, your name, and your password. That's it. And you get the credit. You don't have to put in a credit card or anything like that. And then DigitalOcean has something similar. Go down, click the link down there. It'll give you $10 in credit, and it's the same thing. I don't think you need a credit card or anything. They just give you $10 in credit, and there's no coupon code. You have to click the link, and then the link will give you the credit after you sign up. Okay, so anyway, if you guys want to try those out, I highly recommend them. Now, I'm going to be following along with Vultr today, and we're going to be using Vultr to create a virtual private server, and then we're going to SSH into it. Okay, so one of the things I really like about these services too is that they have hourly pricing. So for example, if you just want to boot it up and play with it for 2 or 3 hours just to see if you can get a server working, it's only going to cost you like 1 or 2 pennies. That's it, like nothing. It's going to cost you like 2 cents because you can just destroy it after 2 hours, and then it only costs you the hourly price, okay? So the way these work is when you start using it, you pay the hourly price until you hit the max, which is the monthly price. So until you hit 5, then it caps off for the month. Okay, and then you pay the hourly price again. All right, so the nice thing about this, and DigitalOcean's the same way, they have hourly pricing, and you just pay the points. This is 0.7 pennies, like less than a penny, like 3/4 of a penny, a little bit less than 3/4 of a penny. So it's really cheap, and you can just pay the hourly price to get going and just to practice or play around on the server. Sometimes we'll launch like a Minecraft server. We'll buy like one of these plans with 2 gigs of memory or something, and it's 3 pennies per hour. And we'll play, me and my friends will boot up a Minecraft server, and we'll use this to launch a Minecraft server, and then we'll just use it for like 2 days, and then we'll just destroy it when we're done. And it will cost like $1. I don't even think it's $1. It's like 70 cents or 60 cents or something like that. So we just use that for a couple days, and then we're good to go. Anyway, so just wanted to mention that there's hourly pricing on both of these. So I highly recommend you go ahead, get signed up. I recommend Vultr. It's my favorite. And let's go ahead and log in, and let's get a virtual private server set up. Okay, so now I'm going to go through, and I'm going to do this on DigitalOcean and Vultr. So we got DigitalOcean over here, and we've got Vultr over here, okay? So now with Vultr, what we're going to do, and with both of them, you just need to create a new server. So we're going to click Deploy New Server, and this is going to start like a wizard to do a new server, okay? And on DigitalOcean, it's the same thing. They call them droplets, but it's a server. They'll call each server a droplet. And with both of these, okay, so the order they ask these are slightly different. So let's just go through these. I'm going to start with Vultr, and we're going to go down. So with Vultr, they're going to ask you for the location. You're going to choose a location closest to where most of your users are. So in that case, if you're in the Philippines, but most of your users are going to be from the United States, you might want to choose a location nearest them so it's faster for your users. Okay, so you can choose any of these locations. If you guys aren't from the United States, you don't know where these locations are. Obviously, Silicon Valley is probably the most centralized West Coast location. It's in the middle, north and south, but on the West Coast. Seattle's way in the north, and then Los Angeles is way in the south, all on the West Coast. And then in the central of the United States, Dallas is way down in the south, Chicago's in the middle, north and south, but in the center, it's like in the dead center of the United States almost, Chicago. And then New York is going to be the far east coast, and then up in the north, and then Miami's far east coast in the south. So just kind of choose a location near where your users are going to be. Dallas or Chicago is a very centralized location if you're wanting that. Okay, so I'm going to choose Dallas. It's a little closer to me because I'm near the south. And yeah. Now down here, it's going to ask you for what operating system you want. So we're going to choose Ubuntu 16. So we're going to launch here with an Ubuntu version 16, and it's a 64-bit, okay? And that's the operating system for Linux that we're going to have. Now, you can choose any operating system you want. They're all going to run very, very similar because they're all based off of Linux. The biggest difference is the package managers they have. This is like, we'll use this in the next video, but Ubuntu uses apt-get, whereas some of these other ones use different package managers, okay? So I recommend just following along with Ubuntu, and then you can do a different one later if you want. But for this series, I recommend watching Ubuntu. Okay, so now from here, what I recommend is choosing your server size. So we're just going to choose the $5 a month. We already kind of talked about the specs of it. I think it's good enough, at least to get started. And as you grew, you could upgrade the size of the server. You have a couple other additional features down here you can choose. like IPv6 if you'd like to enable that, automatic backups, DDoS protection, and so forth. DigitalOcean I don't think offers DDoS, but they offer these other ones. We're not going to enable any of these. Now, Vultr does have a startup script that you can write. You can click here to create startup scripts. And what this does is after it creates your server, it'll run your script. And so this allows you to install other things right from the get-go. So you can install other applications if you'd like through a script. So you write these scripts and then you can just launch them after your server. Okay, so that's something you could do if you'd like. I'm going to skip over that for now. The next question it asks you is about SSH keys. SSH keys are basically, hopefully you know what SSH keys are. Hopefully you're using those with Git already. If you're not and you want to set up SSH keys, I highly recommend that you have an SSH key when you create one of these servers, okay? I highly recommend it. Not only is it more secure, but it's also faster and just much easier to use. So you're going to select your SSH key. Now, if you just created an account, you probably don't have an SSH key in here. So you need to add your SSH key. So you're going to come over and click Add New. It's going to pop up a box that's going to have the name that you want to name your SSH key. You can name it whatever you want. In this case, I named it MacBook Pro Sierra. The only purpose of that is so that you know what the SSH key belongs to, so you can make sure you check the right one, you know. And then the second box is going to be the actual SSH key. So you need to go in, copy your SSH key, and then paste it into that box, and then click Create, and you'll be set, okay? Now, if you want to learn how to get your SSH key or how to create one on your computer, I recommend you watch this video over here. This video is actually set up for Git, but it will walk you through all about SSH keys, how to get one set up, and how to copy it to your clipboard. Now, in this video, we'll actually paste it into GitHub, but instead, you'll just paste it into Vultr or DigitalOcean, okay? That's the only difference. So go ahead and watch that video if you do want to learn more about SSH keys. All right, so that's all we really need for this server. Let's go ahead and just finish this off. We're going to give it a host name and a label. So the host name, I'm just going to call localhost. That's the most common, but you can call it whatever you need for your server. I recommend just localhost unless you know what you're doing. And the server label is just whatever name you need it. Now, when you have a bunch of servers, launched at the same time, on your dashboard, you'll see them listed, and it will use this label to identify them. So you want to know what each server does. So you just give it a name that's going to describe what it does. Now, in this case, I'm going to call it Laravel Blog. And the reason is because I'm actually going to be pushing a project called our How to Build a Blog with Laravel series. And that is a series that we did on this channel to help beginners with Laravel learn about Laravel and how to get started with it. We built a pretty decent, intermediate level blog application from there and learned a lot about that along the way about Laravel. So if you are interested in learning more about Laravel and want to watch that series, I recommend going back and watching that. I'll have links for that here that you can go ahead and watch. But that's actually the project I'm going to be pushing to the server. Okay, so I'm going to call it Laravel Blog. And that's all it takes. Now we're done with Vultr. You can see here it's going to cost $5 a month or 0.7 cents an hour. And we can just click Deploy. And when we click Deploy, it's going to come over here and it's going to start booting it up. Now it takes about 1 minute for the install to happen. So you can just basically let this happen in the background. And in a moment it'll be done and we can go through and log into the server. I'm going to head on over to DigitalOcean now and talk about how to do it with DigitalOcean. It's pretty easy. It's basically the same thing. The first thing it asks you this time is the operating system you want. The default is actually the one you want. So the default on Vultr is CentOS, and the default on DigitalOcean is Ubuntu. So you want to do Ubuntu 16 and 64-bit, so make sure you get the right one. After that, it asks you for your size. I recommend just getting the $5 one. Now, there's a new feature with DigitalOcean called block storage, which allows you to basically, it's kind of like an Amazon S3. It's for large amounts of storage, and you can basically attach this to your server. So you can have additional storage in your server, which is pretty cool. Now, if you wanted one of those, you could add that volume, but we're going to skip over that for now. The last thing it asks you is where you want to store your server, what location. They don't have as many locations on DigitalOcean, but you'll just choose one near you. So they have a lot more in Asia, I noticed, over here. And then they've got, UK, Amsterdam, Frankfurt. So they've got a couple, they've got some good selections. So go ahead and select one that you want. These 1s and 2s, by the way, are just because there's multiple data centers at this location. So you just choose your random one. It doesn't really matter. Just choose whatever you feel like. Now you've got additional options like the private networking, the IPv6 and stuff like that. You can select those if you want. And then it asks you for your SSH keys just like it did before. You'll need to have those set up in advance. So if you haven't, you're going to want to click new SSH key. I already have some in my account, so we're going to just click check the box for the one that I already have in my account, which is this computer here. Lastly, it asks you how many servers you want, and it droplets is what they call them, and then it gives you a name. So I'm just going to call this Laravel blog is going to be the name of our server. But anyway, you saw the process of doing it. It's pretty easy. You're going to click deploy, and then it's going to boot it up in the same way that this one booted up. Okay, it takes about a minute. It's going to launch it, and you're going to be good to go. All right. Now, let's talk about how, now that we have our server, it is running, okay? It's running. We don't see it, but it is out there in the world running. In fact, if we go to this IP address, we could access it. Now, of course, nothing's going to happen because there's no server on this. It's a server that exists, but there's no like web server. It doesn't know how to handle web traffic. So we're not going to get anything. And we're going to fix that over the next few videos. We're going to be installing web servers and stuff like that to get it running. Okay, so let's just really quick talk about how we can log into our server so we can start doing some stuff with it. So what we're going to want to do is take this IP address, and we're going to want to use this IP address to log into the server through SSH. Okay, you're going to need an SSH client to do this next step. And if you're on Linux or Mac, you have an SSH client built into your computer. It's called Terminal. It has SSH built in. You don't need to do anything. You can just start using SSH. That makes it really nice. Now, if you're on Windows, you do need a separate computer or a separate application, of course. So you're going to need to install an SSH client. So just search for PuTTY SSH, and this is going to be the most commonly used SSH on Windows. So you can just click this first option here. You can see they have a really nice website. So they put a lot of time into this website, some really advanced CSS files and stuff. And you can basically, if you just go with their really advanced menu up here, you just click on the download link and it'll take you there, and you can download this putty.exe. Now it looks like you're downloading a virus. Not sure what to tell you about that. It is highly reliable. Windows users everywhere use it for SSH. It seems to be the platform everyone uses and talks about. So that's what you're going to want to do there. And then make sure you go to Twitter, let them know how nice their website is. You don't want this kind of hard work to go to be any sort of thankless work. Okay, so, oops, that's all we've got for that one. Let's go back over to, so yeah, download that, and then you're gonna have SSH set up for Windows. Everyone else, you can just head on over to Terminal. So let's do that. So make sure you have your IP address here, and you either need your IP address or your domain name. So if you wanna set up a domain, you're gonna wanna go over to DNS over here, and make sure you link your domain to this server, okay? And that way you can type in your domain. But for this tutorial, we're just gonna use the IP. So let's go over to our terminal, and what we're going to do here is I'm on my local computer. We're going to log into that server with SSH. So we're going to type SSH root and then the @ and then our IP address. Okay, now the way this works is SSH tells it to log in via SSH, obviously, and then the root is the user that we want to log in as. Every Linux computer has a root user. That's the default user. And if you wanted to create more users after you log in the first time, you can, and then you could log in with those. So if I created a user called Alex, I wanted to log in as that, I could just do Alex, and then I would log in as the Alex user, okay? But in this case, we're just going to call root because there is no other user. And then you would do either your domain name or your IP address. So if you set up a domain name, you would do your domain name like this, okay? But in this case, we'll just have our IP address. And then when you're done with that, you click enter and it's going to log you in. Okay, now the first time you log in, it's going to ask you if this is secure and you want to share this is their fingerprint, do you want to share with them, whatever. You're going to type yes, and you only have to do this the first time. Okay, so click yes. It's going to tell you it permanently added this IP address to your list of known hosts. Once it's in that list of known hosts, then it'll automatically log you in whenever you try to log in. You don't get that question anymore. And then here we are. So we're now on Ubuntu 16. And this is basically the launch screen for Ubuntu. We have full access to our computer now. We can do whatever we want to it, okay? So it's pretty cool. Now, one thing I want to show you real quick before we move on to the next video is just so you can identify whether you're SSH'd into a computer or whether you're on your local computer. It's important to know this because it's very easy to get confused on whether you're on your local computer or on your SSH or your cloud computer, especially because a lot of times I'll have two windows open. One is for the local and one is for the cloud. And so the biggest way to tell is this pound sign. If you see a pound sign, that means you're SSH'd in. If you see a dollar sign, that means you are on your local computer. Also, you'll see this root at localhost. That just again means that you're logged in as root and you're at, this is the host name, localhost. So you're logged in on this server, okay? So that's basically all it takes to get started. We're going to talk more about how to install applications in the next video, because that's the next step, is to start installing our LAMP stack or our LEMP stack. And we'll talk about that in the next video. Now, if you do ever want to log out of this computer, you're currently logged in this computer. So every command you type will go to the computer. If you want to log out, you just type exit and click enter. And that'll log you out. And you can see here it closes the connection. And now you see the name of my computer, the user I'm logged in as, and then the dollar sign. And that's because I'm on my local computer. Okay, so this is how you access. You can tell the difference between your local computer, this dollar sign or this the pound sign like this. Okay. All right, so that's basically all I got for you guys today. The next part is going to talk about how to install a LEMP stack onto your server. If you're interested in a LAMP stack, I'm going to do that video sometime in the future, but I'm going to put both videos up here. If you see a link for that video, you can go ahead and click LAMP stack if you're interested in that as well. The only difference between a LEMP stack and a LAMP stack is the server. It's whether you use Apache or Nginx. Everything else is going to be the same. So the only difference is this one video, and then after that, all the other stuff's the same. Okay, so I personally recommend you do the LEMP stack unless you really, really, really want the Apache. The LEMP stack is more common in Laravel, so if you're on forums and blogs, you're going to see more information about the Nginx or the LEMP stack. You're going to see more information about it. It seems to be more preferred in the Laravel community, and that's why I recommend it. Okay, so that's all I have for you guys today. I'm going to see you guys in part 2 where we start installing either the LEMP stack or the LAMP stack. Okay, I'll see you guys there.